Australia, I felt, was sitting on my back. So much was expected of me, and I was just 20, and I kept muttering to myself as I came from under the underground after being sick with nerves. I'm as good as they are until they prove otherwise. I kept muttering that to myself. And when I won it, I can't explain it. I could never explain it to anybody what it was like to stand up on that dais and raise that Australian flag.
Well, that is the great Marjorie Jackson-Nelson, aka the Lithgow Flash. And this year is the 70th anniversary of Marj becoming the first Australian woman to win an Olympic gold medal. It was in Helsinki, 1952. She took gold in the 100-metre sprint, then backed it up with another gold in the 200, all at just 20 years of age. But she also won something even more important while she was away at those Olympics, and that was the heart of Peter Nelson. He was a South Australian young man who was there representing our country as a cyclist. He and Marj got together, and then within a year, they were married. Now, recently, I was very lucky to have the opportunity to present Marj with a cake to celebrate the 70th anniversary of those gold medals. And a huge thank you to Channel 7 News Adelaide, who have allowed us to use that interview and that footage in this podcast. Marj was also the Governor of South Australia, and at 91 years young, she has got a brilliant memory of all those wonderful achievements that she's had in a really fruitful and fulfilling life. Back in 1977, just 24 years after marrying Pete, he lost his battle to leukemia, which left Marj to raise 3 kids on her own. Within 6 weeks of Peter's passing, Marj created the Peter Nelson Leukemia Research Fellowship Fund, because she didn't want anybody else to have to go through what her and her family did. They've raised a ton of money and created some amazing research into leukemia. It's an absolute treat to have Marj join us on the podcast, and I know you're going to love it. It's like a walk back through time. Here we go, Marjorie Jackson-Nelson. Welcome along to the Soda Room, a place where we get to know the real stories behind some of the biggest names in the game.
It was like we had won the grand final.
I just got some new boots. It was something special for me.
Did you understand the significance of that moment?
Oh, yeah. Nothing compared.
That's what I thought I had to do as a leader.
You got the same undies on.
I've got exactly the same ones on.
Marj, I'm so excited to see you here. Congratulations. Happy 70th anniversary.
Yes, it's unbelievable, and very proud that I'm still here to enjoy it.
Well, you certainly, you stopped the world. You're the fastest woman on the planet back in 1952. How vivid are the memories still from back then?
Oh, yes, well, of course, my grandchildren keep talking about it, and my daughter has just been over in Melbourne, and my granddaughter was telling my grandson here about This Is Your Life that I was on, and of course he didn't know anything about it. So he's asking me, what's all this? So I've got a copy, so I'll let him see it. So, yes.
That's quite amazing, because obviously, for the grandkids and the little great-grandkids now, do they understand what Nana had done and what...
Oh, well, when Marty was young, I used to be in the supermarket, and she'd be at this checkout, and she'd go to people, and yell it, this is my grandmother. She's the fastest woman in the world. And I used to go as red as a beetroot and so embarrassed, and everybody would go, looking at her, But they are very proud, very, very proud, and it's lovely for them.
As they should be. Well, take us back. Can you 70 years ago, tell us about that particular day and that race. What are your memories of it?
I was glad it had been raining. Because back then the spikes were very long, because we ran here in Australia with grass. And Lithgow built me a cinder track, well, not a track, just a strip of 150 metres of cinders, and of course it wasn't anything like the cinders overseas. So in the fog and the sleet and the snow, that's how I trained for the Olympic Games, by the lights of one motor car.
So they have the headlights on?
Well, you couldn't see it. I used to feel with my feet, because that's how thick the fog was. You couldn't see your hand if you put it in front of you. And I used to feel with my feet and hope I was on the straight line of the bit that was bitumised, and then just run in through the fog, and then I'd bang into the car at the end. And
really?
That's how I trained, because we finished competition here in March, and the Olympics started in July. Well, overseas were right in the middle
Yep.
of their season, and of course we weren't. So we hadn't had any races when we left Australia.
So when you were training in that sort of situation, you were training pretty much every night after work?
After work.
Right, in the dark, in the cold?
Dark, in the cold, in the snow, and then having to walk about 2.5 kilometres home. I used to get home about 10 o'clock at night, and Mum would have dinner waiting, then I'd go to bed, and I used to do that 5 days a week.
Marj, what drove you? What really got you to do that every night during all that winter as well?
I
What
must
was
have
it?
been mad. Just the thought of getting a trip overseas. You know, because I remember when I first beat Flanny Blackers-Cohen, who won in London, I got invited to go to Melbourne, and I was the talk of Lithgow because I was going on an aeroplane. Not because I'd won any events, it's because I'd gone on this plane. So that's what it was like back then. So just to, I don't really know why I kept going, but I used to love sport, so, but some days I got sick of training, I have to admit.
You still went though, every night?
Every night.
Right. And your coach was at Jim Monahan?
Yes, that's
And
right.
so was he a hard taskmaster, or did he sort of guide you through nicely?
Oh no, he wasn't. They weren't like that back those days. He was a professional runner that had run in the Stall Gift, and he started up a Lithgow Athletic Club, and there was only me and his wife, and
The
two
club
of
consisted of
his
two.
friends. There were about 4 of us. And then, of course, after I won at the Olympics, everybody, Fleur Mellor came up from Sydney and lived with my parents, and of course she was in the 56 relay team that won a gold medal.
Yeah.
So
You mentioned Fanny Blankers-Cohen. So she was the world record holder. She won 4 gold medals in 1948 in London. She comes to Australia to show everyone what an Olympic champion's like. And you, as a young girl, you beat her 3 times, didn't you?
yes, it was very unusual that race, because I actually ran a yard faster than what she did at the Olympic Games the year before. And when I was 16, I tried out. I'd only ever run 100 yards. And I got into the Australian final when I was 16, and the girl next to me broke, and I sat there. I never sat there again because they didn't call them back. And 2 of those girls had never beaten me, ever. The Lithgow people went down with a delegation to find out why my name hadn't been submitted.
This was to then go to the 48 Olympics, wasn't it?
That's right. Men's and the women's were separate at that stage, and they said, well, the women hadn't put my name up. And of course it turned out those 2 girls, their parents were officials from Sydney, and so I was left out of it. And one of them said to the men, one of the men said to my trainer, well, where the devil's Lithgow? And he just looked at him and then said, in 4 years' time you'll know where Lithgow is.
Because they found out pretty quickly.
Well, when we got this invitation, we were going to move back to Coffs Harbour to live, and I got this invitation to compete. So when I realised what Mum and Dad gave up for me, because they always wanted to go back to my birthplace, and of course to beat her, and then on the Wednesday night I had to go down, and I go to start, and I was particularly shy. I get to the starting line, they came up and said, you're not allowed to run tonight. It's Fanny's night. My trainer, he just said, well, Marj has got an invitation and she's running. And so they withdrew Fanny from the race. And so then the great big papers were really playing this up. And so on the Saturday, I had to run against her again. And they mowed her lane and they kept the long grass in all the other lanes.
So you're on grass in Sydney. Her lane is what, like a billiard table?
That's right.
And they just mowed hers.
That's right.
And you still, what happened?
Well, and then Dad used to sole our ordinary shoes, and he'd made this thick sole, and I'd tied it over my spikes because of all the mud, because it'd been raining, and I forgot to take them off. So I ran against her with this stuff covering the whole of my shoes.
And you beat her?
Yep. Well, she said there was a hole in the... She pulled up about the 75-yard mark and said there was a hole in the track, a pothole, and all the reporters went round, of course, couldn't find one. So
Like, it was a billiard table, her track. What was she complaining about?
Well, I got him very unpopular with
Marj,
the officials.
So you get to that point, you miss out on the Olympics as a young girl, you're taking on the fastest woman on the planet, and you've beaten her. How did you feel? Was it...
Well, I got back to Lithgow, I can remember, about 11:30 at night, and the whole of the station was full of people. Oh, hundreds of them, and they'd made a great big horseshoe of flowers And they put that round my neck as I stepped out the train. And as I'm coming into Lithgow, the train kept blowing the whistle for about 10 minutes before we came in to let them know I was coming. And that was lovely. When I came home from the Olympics, Qantas diverted the plane and flew over Lithgow.
Really?
Yes.
I just want to ask, just to go back on that, once you'd
yeah.
realised you'd beaten Fanny Blankers-Cohen and you'd beaten her a few times, had it sort of sunk in that you were potentially the fastest woman on the planet at that point?
I didn't really take much notice of it, to be honest. I know Jim Monaghan was more angry than what I was.
Yep.
And he just said, well, when I got this invitation, we're now going to think this is the Olympic Games, and that's how I trained.
You win your 4 gold medals at the 1950 Commonwealth Games, do that beautifully. You get to Helsinki. 70 years ago today, you're lining up in the 100 metres. You said it had rained that morning.
Yes.
Tell me about the race.
I vomited before the start. The nerves, because Australia, I felt, was sitting on my back because it was headlines in all the papers in New South Wales, just headline after headline. So much was expected of me, and I was just 20, and I kept muttering to myself as I came from under the underground after being sick with nerves, I'm as good as they are until they prove otherwise. I kept muttering that to myself. And when I won it, I can't explain it. I could never explain it to anybody what it was like to stand up on that dais and raise that Australian flag.
At what
I
point,
felt it was a moment in time that was mine,
Yeah.
can never be taken away from me.
At what point in the race did you know it was yours?
I didn't think about it. All I
Didn't
wanted
have
to do
time?
was get down the other end. Yeah, no, it was the excitement in Australia was unbelievable because, as I said, I was the first woman to ever win it. And Lithgow, Mum sent me a letter saying Lithgow had a planned minute of noise. I thought, oh, they're mad. But everything that could make a noise, they did it for a minute.
Really?
Every siren, police sirens, the fire brigade, all the car horns, even all the kids came out of school with those little triangle things hitting them.
Yeah.
And they just went absolutely mad with excitement. I felt that first medal really was for Mum and Dad and the people of Lithgow for what they gave up for me. But I know darn well the second one was for me.
So equal world record in the 100.
Yes.
You win the 200.
Yes.
Another world record there.
Yes, well,
Tell us
I
about
broke
the
the world
200.
record in the semi-final
Yep.
because Peter was there seeing me run and I wanted to show off. And I broke the world record. Well, then they found out that it was a 17-year-old record by a Polish runner. And then later years, she was actually shot in a restaurant and they found out it was a man.
What?
Yeah, the Stella that won.
Really?
Yeah, she was actually a man.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What an amazing situation. So you essentially broke a
man's-
man's world record.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So you've won those two. Tell us a little bit about the relay, because some people might know, essentially you could have probably had the 3 gold, couldn't you?
We should have.
Yeah, tell us what happened in the relay.
Well, there was only, of the 85 that went, only 35 had their fare paid for. Everybody else had to raise their own money. And I used to go down at my own expense at night, Wednesday night to Sydney, to the Harold Park greyhound dogs, and put sashes around these greyhound dogs. I never wanted to see another greyhound as long as I lived. And I did that every Wednesday night, and they would give the money to the relay team.
Right.
Well, I was nominated as the first athlete, and the relay team was way down the list. They had to raise their own money. So we actually had never run as a relay team before till we got overseas. And then we in New South Wales and the other states always ran with our hand on our hip. Well, one of the girls wanted to change it, that we had our hand stretched at the back.
So explain, what do you mean with your hand on
Well,
your hip?
we used to run like that, and the other
Right.
girl would just put it there and your
Wait
hand
for
would
the pass.
close,
Right.
which was safer.
Yes.
But instead of this business,
Yep.
with our hands out like that, and in the heat,
Yep.
we broke the world record. And then in the final, Winsome's leading around to me, and the lane that we were in, you get that 10 metres to change that
Yes.
baton over. And if it isn't, if you go over the line, you're disqualified. Well, I had actually run two steps. with this grin all over my face. Because I thought...
You're in front?
Yes. Oh, yes, we were in front. And then suddenly I didn't have it anymore. And it turned out she hadn't pulled up. And she was still running behind me, and my arm went back with this baton, and her knee came up and sent it flying. And all these years, everyone keeps saying I dropped the baton, but I never ever dropped the baton. It was not completely out of my hand. Right. So I wish the race had been about another 50 metres, because I reckon I would have caught them.
So
because I caught one.
The baton up.
Yeah, it bounced.
It
bounced, and I caught one girl. I think I could have caught more if it had been a little bit longer. And then we went on to London to White City and broke the world record and beat the Americans that won it.
Yeah.
But of course, I was heartbroken for the other two because what we gave up, you know.
We had Shirley Strickland in your team, didn't you?
That's
so she won the gold in the hurdles.
Yes.
So it was the other two.
Yes.
That missed out on their.
Yes, I said to Winsome once, I've taken this blame all these years. It's about time you took it, Winsome.
So this is Winsome Cripps.
Yes.
Did she take any responsibility?
Oh, she laughed, and apparently in her obituary, she said that the knee stuck her leg. Yeah.
She took responsibility.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So you've won your 2 gold medals and you came back home.
Oh, unbelievable.
Tell us when you got to Australia.
Unbelievable. From Sydney Airport to 96 Mile. Was with people. I've never seen so many people. Every town through the Blue Mountains, they all came out and welcomed me home, and then they had a big luncheon at Katoomba, and then I got to Lithgow, where there was about 22 or 23,000 waiting, and they had all these banners, and they absolutely went hysterical. I'd actually thought I'd died, because the car they put me in, you couldn't see me because of all the flowers. Wow. That's how many flowers were there, and they had a big carnival of soldiers marched and Red Cross girls and scouts and brownies, and it was a great big procession that they had, and they were so excited, and I was just so happy for Lithgow.
You were still very young at this stage.
20.
So as a 20-year-old Coffs Harbour Lithgow girl, had it really sunk into you what you'd just achieved?
I'll never forget Lithgow, ever. And the support that they gave me and the love that they gave me. I really appreciated that.
Who came up with the Lithgow Flash name?
Well, they used to call me a lot of things. They used to call me the Blue Streak, and then the aeroplane name, they used Ansett named a plane after me. Right. The Lithgow, I forget what they call that. And then we had it was the design that we actually had on our top, like a flash thing, and that's it. They started to call me the Lithgow Flash.
You mentioned before when you won the 200 metres, you were showing off in front of someone you met pretty special. You got a couple of gold medals in Helsinki, but you probably got something a little bit more than that, didn't you? Yeah. Tell us about your husband Pete, because he was over there cycling for Australia.
Yeah, I'd never met him before.
Where did you meet?
On the plane.
Right.
And back in those days, you never spoke to a boy, really, unless you were introduced to them.
Right.
So the boys from running on New South Wales, a lot of them I knew, but you just smile and say hello. Well, I think we were halfway between here and Darwin, and the boxing manager said, well, this is ridiculous. We're going away for 2 months. Nobody's speaking to one another. So he made everyone get up on that plane and go around and introduce themselves to one another. So that was all right. You could talk to them then. Right. Oh, gee, don't we so old-fashioned? And then he asked me out in London, and I knew him 6 weeks. He asked me to marry him, and I thought, wow, I fancy waking up with this gorgeous-looking hunk. So I went, yes. I didn't know anything about him at all.
So hang on, this is even before you got back from the Olympics.
Yeah.
You'd already agreed to get married. You hadn't even met him before you left. No. So tell us, so you're going around meeting everyone on the plane. Did he catch your eye or did you catch his? What do you reckon?
No. I was just one night, we were in London, and the boxing manager said, oh, I'm going for a walk. And of course our manageress would never leave me out of her sight, so she said she'd go too. And so I said I'd go, and suddenly Peter came from somewhere and said, oh, I'll go too. And we're walking along, and next thing he held my hand, so that was all right with me. Yeah, when you think about it. Oh, God.
What a beautiful love story.
Yeah. I didn't ever see what he saw in me, but I didn't care.
Marj, don't sell yourself short.
Yeah.
And obviously, he was over there with the Olympics with cycling, and
Yeah.
he was an SA boy, which is why you're still here now.
Yes. We would have been married, 1953 we got married,
Yeah. Can I ask too, so you obviously go to the Commonwealth Games after you win your Olympic golds and win another 3. Was there, because you're still young, was there any consideration to stay running for Melbourne for 56?
Well, no, not really, because we had no money. I had to buy I earned £1.17 and 6 a week. I gave Mum £1, and in 17 and 6 I had to clothe myself, buy my running shoes, and it used to take me over 6 months to pay them off. They were £5.5 each.
Right.
And I got 2 pair of those made, so I had to save to buy those, and we had to provide our own starting blocks.
And this is why you're the fastest woman on the planet.
Yeah, and then when we got to London, they'd give us 15 and 6 to live for the week, and out of that we'd have to buy our meals, pay to go on the train to go and train, and it used to cost us about 18 and 6, and you know that back then I realised Dad gave me the rest, you know. And then of course we were strictly amateur. And then we came back and see Peter went on to Germany and rode in the World Championships, so we had no money. When I think back, we got married, we really only could afford the honeymoon and the ring. We had nowhere to go. His brother went away for a week's holiday and we stayed there. I mean, gee. And then Peter's boss lent us one of his bedrooms and we lived in that for a long while.
Right.
Yes. Everything we ever earned, I never got anything out of athletics. Yeah. But the one thing I did see was the world. Yeah. So I'm quite grateful for that.
What an amazing story.
Yeah. It's been an interesting life.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit, when you go to Helsinki, and you said with the planes back then, there was no long haul flying. So how did you get there? What was the stages of the trip?
Well, we'd get to Darwin, then they'd have to refuel.
Yep.
Then we went to Indonesia, then refuel, then to Singapore, and we stayed overnight in Singapore at Raffles.
Oh, yeah.
And that was about the only hotel then.
It would have been all right, wouldn't it?
Yes, but all the rest of it were the sampans. You didn't, it isn't like it is now.
Yeah.
And then we got to Karachi and Colombo and every place we stopped at, and then in Rome until we got to London. So it took about a week, and then we were in London.
That's an amazing trek.
It was, and
then from London to Helsinki.
That's right.
So was that it? Could you get a flight from London to Helsinki?
Yes.
That would sort of get you there direct.
Yeah, but the 1948 team had to go by boat. So, I mean, how could you compete in athletics when you had to go on a sea voyage to get to London?
Yeah.
Australia had to overcome a lot. And I can remember all the boys, we used to have a meeting every Monday with the manager, and the boys would all be complaining because they still had coupons from the war. And you couldn't get any meat. And I didn't know you could disguise potatoes. Like, we just lived off potatoes.
Right.
And the manager, I can remember him standing there saying to them, well, if you're unhappy, here's your ticket and you can go home. Now they take you to court.
Yeah.
And they got meat sent from Australia, but it took nearly a week to get there.
Wow.
Yes.
So you think of all the adversity that you have to overcome and no money, yet you were still able to have that achievement. You must feel so proud. I
am now. I didn't really realise in later years, really, that what I'd done. And one of the grandchildren wanted to see one of my scrapbooks, and I got it down. And I thought, gee, I started to read them, and I thought, I didn't know I was that good. Yeah, so I was pleased to be able to pay my parents and Lithgow in Australia. I mean, I really love my country. Yeah. And I was so proud and I'll always be the first at something.
You're the first woman to win a gold medal for Australia at the Olympics.
Yes, yeah.
And so you beat Shirley Strickland by, a couple of days, because she won the hurdles?
She won the hurdles, yes.
Oh, you got that up on her?
Oh, no. And I told her to. Don't think I was too popular.
So Marj, you said that first one you won, the first gold medal, it was something for your parents. So they'd obviously given up a lot and sacrificed a lot for you to be able to achieve your goals.
They were, it's as I've got older, I've realised I should have thanked them more. What they gave up for me, and one of my sisters passed away with breast cancer, and I said to my other sister, must have been awful living in the shadow of me. She looked at me and she said, oh, not on your life. I wouldn't have had your life for quids.
Really?
Oh, well, I think she saw that once that happened, my life was no longer my own. It was no longer my own.
Yes.
And I had a very wise father, which I didn't appreciate at the time.
Yep.
But when I was 15, I had my photo in the paper, and I must have been going around with my head in the air.
Yeah.
And then Dad just took me in and he said, now look, God gives us all a gift. Yours just happens to be running.
Yep.
You know better than anybody else, and don't forget it. And then when I came back from the Olympics, a reporter said to my dad, well, you must be proud of your daughter now. And he said, I've always been proud of her. And it didn't affect them. Nothing was ever said much in the house about it.
Yes.
I remember I broke a world record in training. Well, I never went home and told them.
Really?
Well, it was just something I'd done. And until my trainer said to Dad where he worked at the small arms factory, wasn't it great? And he said, Marj didn't tell me. I never thought to tell him.
You've broken the world record.
In training, yeah. I was weird.
Oh, mate, it's just fantastic. Nowadays, when you look at where athletics is and sport is now, and you've obviously been involved with the Commonwealth Games for many years and still take a very keen interest, it must make your head spin looking on where
I can't
things
believe
are
what they
progressing.
get.
Yeah.
I remember in one of the teams, so I had to go to Sydney for a week to pack the cases for what they put in there for them. And I can remember when I was over, I think it was in Kuala Lumpur or somewhere, one of them came up to me and said, so-and-so had got 3 tracksuits and she'd only got 2. And I said, well, it'd be nice. I said, well, we had one that was all made of thick cotton and that lasted 2 months. I mean, we had to supply. They have all shoes supply. I can't get over, considering we had nothing.
Yeah, and paid for the honour.
I know.
You paid for the honour to be a champion.
Yes, I know. And then when I got married, I had to actually live and be a resident here for 6 months. And of course, I wasn't. The Australian titles were coming up in March, and I'd only been here 4 months. So we did not have the money for me to go to New South Wales to contest, because I still had to run for New South Wales. Yeah. And so they sent me an invitation, but we had no money because we got married in the November and we had no money. And I couldn't afford the plane trip to go to Sydney to run. And the papers apparently got hold of it in Sydney and said it was disgusting that he was an Olympic champion and not brought over. So they brought me over and I broke the world record in the 200.
Did you tell your dad?
Yeah, so I think they was pleased I ran for New South Wales.
Why not?
And Bruce McAvaney rang me the other day and he said, I'm reading up on these Commonwealth Games. He said, when you went in 1954, when you got the bat, and he said, the girl was 12 yards ahead of you. He said, that wouldn't be right, would it? He said, because you're competing against, world-class athletes.
Yeah.
I said, no, that's true. I said, the night before, one of the girls took sick and they had to pull her out of the relay, and they put this tiny little girl in that ran the hurdles, and we'd never had a baton changed at all. And by the time it all got to me, we were 12 yards behind. And I could still remember the roar, believe it or not, of the people. And I pipped her just at the post and we won the gold medal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because when you look at your record with the 7 Commonwealth Games golds and the 2 Olympic golds, there's no silvers there.
No.
No bronzes.
No. Oh.
You just won.
I'll have to try again.
I'm always intrigued to know with someone who is like a champion, did you ever have doubts in your mindset, like with any of the races, even when you're a young girl going up against Fanny Blankers-Cohen, or you get to the start of the Olympics or the Com Games? Did you doubt yourself, or was there always that sort of inner belief?
Oh no, when after the business on that Wednesday night, I thought, oh God, I hope I drop dead so I don't have to run against the next Saturday. Oh, you got no idea what the papers were doing. And it was so stressful for someone that was 16. I mean, these were headlines.
Yes.
Headline after headline after headline.
Yeah.
And I was a particularly shy country girl.
Yeah.
And I wasn't used to that bombardment.
Mm-hmm.
And all these press people sort of yelling at you. And I found it very daunting. Very, very... it was funny, when I was 80, my kids played a record and they were interviewing me. And when I beat Fanny Blancas Cohen, all I did was, yes, no, yes, yes. And the only thing I said different was Mr. Monaghan when they asked who trained me.
Yes.
And that was when I was 17. And when I was 20 and I came back for the Olympics, they had a continuation of this gramophone record and you couldn't shut me up. The confidence that I grew going away to London and Helsinki and facing the press, which I used to find very hard. Now I talk too much, I think.
Well, you love it, Chad. It's brilliant. I love that you can share all of this with us. When you were living in Government House there on North Terrace, tell us about being Governor of South Australia.
Oh, that was unreal. When I do something, I try to give 100%, and I gave it my all. And to meet so many wonderful human beings, it was. I'm very honoured to have had that position, because we all live in our own little dream world, and you don't really realise what's going on out there until you're associated with it. And particularly with the disabled children that I got involved with. I thought there was only one or two organisations, but there's not. There's so many of them, and so many nursing homes, and meeting the people of South Australia, I was the richer for it. I found the way people had to struggle in their lives and how they overcome adversity. And I think with the things that had happened in my life, helped me to get through that, because I was able to communicate with people that had lost someone. And I think through all the trials of life, as I said, you grow or you go under. Well, I couldn't afford to go under. I had 3 young children to bring up. And so I'm still here. Don't know for how much longer. I think I'm sitting on the bench, so I should be pushed off pretty soon, but anyway.
Are you a South Australian or a New South Welsh woman, or how do you see yourself? A bit of both?
Yes. Well, this is the longest I've ever lived here, from 1953, so what? Nearly, that's...
Well, we're coming up to...
God,
we're 69 years.
Yes.
69 years you've lived here in SA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But still a New South Wales girl at heart, obviously, from Coffs and Lithgow.
Lithgow.
Yeah.
Lithgow, they've built a statue of me up there in Lithgow, and I always call Lithgow home.
Yeah. When's the last time you've been to Lithgow?
When I carried the torch for Sydney. I went up there and carried it through Lithgow. And
what was that like?
It was wonderful, because Jack O'Hagan wrote a song when I won at the Olympics, and he called it Our Marjorie. And they had the choir all singing in the park as I unveiled the statue. And of course the whole park was full of people. And just to hear that song again, and I know all my girlfriends at school used to go to the movies, roll Jaffers down. They always played Our Marjorie in the movies before it started.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, so let's go. It was proud.
Does it sometimes feel that it was a completely different life?
Oh yes, that's what I said. When I was reading these things the other day, it was like reading about someone else. You don't get it. I didn't get it to start with. Just how important it was. I mean, when my mum said all these medals, noise was going, I thought, they're mad. What are they doing that for? Didn't realise the impact it had back here in Australia. You know, to get the telegram from the Prime Minister and all that, I thought that was wonderful.
Yeah.
And meeting the Queen over there, she had a meeting for the Commonwealth athletes, and we went to Buckingham Palace, and they came and just said to me, the Queen wishes to meet you.
Yeah.
That's why I've been such a fan of hers.
Right.
Because I thought, and then they said, no, you're not allowed to speak to her. You just answer her questions. Like I couldn't ask her a question. And you called her Your Majesty to start with, and then ma'am.
Yes.
Well, I was a wreck, because you know, you weren't allowed to say anything, but all you did was answer her questions.
Yes, yeah.
And then Of course, when I came out of the palace, all the press are there, what did she say? And I just, oh, what did you say? I said, I didn't say anything. Well, I get this letter ages from Mum, and she said, we were brought you up better than being that rude. I didn't know what she's talking about. When I get home, there was a whole back page of the paper, the whole back page of all these things that I was supposed to have said, and I hadn't said anything.
Oh,
and
really?
they just made up a whole page of it.
Be unlike the media, wouldn't it?
But what got me was she knew every race I had competed, and she knew every time that I had done.
Really?
And I thought that's when she had a number one fan, when I was 20. That she had taken the trouble to know everything. And I mean, I knew all these athletes, but I couldn't tell you what times they'd done. She knew everything I'd done. She was absolutely beautiful. Beautiful person. And when I went there, I think the second or third time, the place is full, this particular room, where you're allocated 20 minutes with her. So she'd just come back from being very ill with the flu. And so she had this very croaky voice. So she sort of said, well, you know, what have you been doing? And I was telling her how I went to the outback with the flying doctor and how I had to get out of the plane while he saw the patient. And I said all about just these salt bushes and miles of red dirt and dust. And I said it was blowing a gale. And I said, and by the time I came in, I said I looked like a cocky, I'm telling you, because all my face was red from the dust and all my hair was standing up. You've got no idea the gale force winds and all this red was going on me. Well, she started to laugh, and then I just kept on telling her funny things, and I saw her look at her watch, and I'd been in there 40 minutes.
Oh, really?
And when I went out, I just saw her look, and she just absolutely startled me, because that threw everything out for 20 minutes. And the lady in waiting said to me, we didn't know what to do. She's never had anyone in there longer than 20 minutes.
How's that?
So she must have enjoyed me telling her all these stories. And then, of course, being governor, I ended up meeting her 2 or 3 times.
I was going to say, all those years later, you were reacquainted.
Yes.
You had her over at your place this time.
I did. She stayed with me.
Oh, so she stayed overnight there in your place?
She stayed there 2 or 3 days.
Really? What was that like?
Well, I couldn't go to any of the functions because I'm her representative, so she was here, so I couldn't go to anything.
Oh, right.
So, and I can remember I said to one of the butlers one night, oh, tell me what she looks like, you know, because I couldn't go down and have a look in her evening dress. When he came up, he said, oh, I don't know, she had a white thing on with a tiara. So that's a man's description of an evening dress.
Understandably.
But I remember when they came to stay, Prince Philip, I'd met him quite often. And I just said, oh, you know, I've got a photo of you and me in the study that was taken. Anyway, as soon as we got inside, he just went, oh, where's that photo of us? Right. So I had to go up and show him. He said, gee, we were young, weren't we?
Wow, so that would have been 50 years earlier.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Now, you've got to tell us about Prince Philip, because he was always an interesting sort of guy and was happy to say anything that actually came into his mind. What was he like when you actually got to
he's
meet
lovely.
him? He was great?
Oh, he was good fun. He was full of life. I don't think he cared what he said. No. But, you know, like he wasn't sort of holding back in any way, whereas she's more sedate.
Yes.
But he would, you could have a laugh, a real good laugh. Yeah. No, I found him quite delightful, to be honest.
Brilliant. What is this whole journey and everything that you've achieved, what has it taught you? What have you learnt about yourself perhaps through all of this?
My kids will hate me saying this, but I always say can't isn't in my dictionary. If you want, although I'm starting to think differently now, because just lately I'm seem to be saying I can't do this. But when I was young, I found as I went through life that we were really becoming a great nation of ants. You put a C in front of it and you got can't, and you put a W in front of it and you got want. And that brought it home to me when Peter died. And I realised we're so wrapped up in money and material possessions that somewhere along the way we've lost what life means and how to live it. And that really brought it home to me, where I would have given up everything to have kept him.
Of course.
Yeah, so I think that was the message I've got out of life, and everything I've done in my life. As Dad said to me when I won, you know, you're now an Olympic champion, a world champion. You should set an example by the way you live your life. And I've tried to do that in my 90 years.
I think you've done that wonderfully well, and not just on the track, but certainly in everything else you've done since as governor, and certainly leading a lot of the Commonwealth Games teams in that time. Sounds like your dad was a pretty wise man.
A wonderful human being. And John Trelaw's son in New South Wales is now writing a book about our 1952 team, and he has sent me all these cuttings from the Coffs Harbour paper where my father was the enormous, apparently, fisherman.
Right.
And had caught the biggest marlin. I knew he'd caught the biggest marlin.
Yeah.
And he had all these cups for fishing, and yet not once did I ever. Only when he said God gives us all a gift.
Yes.
And he just said, oh, well, I got that cup for fishing.
Yeah.
And that was about all. And my mum had her own orchestra when she was young.
Oh, right.
Mary Robinson Orchestra, yes.
Oh, so you come from a list of high achievers.
Yes.
You were bound to be good
Yes.
when you found your gift.
Yes, and I can remember Dad showing me a photo of his uncle who'd won all these cups, and I couldn't have cared less about his uncle. And now I wished I'd have listened.
Yeah.
But at 15 and 16, you don't. And you learn the lessons of life. I mean, I've had so many knocks in my life, you wouldn't believe what I've been through. But you either go under or you strive above it. So, you know, when I lost Peter, I was left with 3 young children.
Yeah.
Well, I had to bring them up. And, you know, I think the greatest achievement to me is our Peter Nelson Leukemia Fund. We've put 10 researchers through now here in South Australia, and it's now administered by the Cancer Council for me because, as I've got to say, I can't do the fundraising now like I used to, but it's still going. Very, very proud of that for what I did with leukemia.
You've raised an enormous amount of money through Peter's Foundation, haven't you?
Yeah.
Very proud of that.
Actually prouder than my gold medals, because the gold medals really, for me, where if something can be found through research, it's helping other Australians, and that's more important to me than any gold medal, really. And that's the way I look at life anyway.
Well, Marj, you are an absolute national treasure.
Thank you.
And I think today it's just absolutely amazing and brilliant that we can celebrate you becoming the first Australian woman to win a gold medal 70 years ago today. It's amazing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Looking back, I guess it is an achievement.
I feel very honoured that you've given me the chance to come and say
that's
hi.
all right. Well, it was only because it was you.
Well, guys, thanks so much for listening. Now, if you love what you just heard, please subscribe to the Soda Room podcast. You could write a review. You could watch the show on YouTube and share it with your buddies. And if you'd like to get in touch with the show, drop us a line, info@thesodaroom.com. Catch you soon.